Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjam Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Dhanavallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Dhanavallabha Girivardhari Yasodhanandana Bhajanana Ranjana Yasodhanandana Bhajanana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasani Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krišna, Hare Krišna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare-rama, Hare-rama, Rama-rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Harinam Sankirtan Yagi ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 8th Canto, Chapter 9, entitled The Lord Incarnates as Mohini Murti, Text 25. Chakre Naksurudharena Jahara Pibata Shira Haristasya Kabandastu Sudaya Plavito Patad Chakre Naksuradharena Jahara Pibata Shiraha Haristasya Kabandhastu Sudaya Plavito Patad Ladies. Chakrena, by the disc, Ksuradharena, which was sharp like a razor, Jahara, cut off, Pibataha, while drinking nectar. Shiraha, the head. Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Tasya, of that Rahu. Kabandha, two, but the headless body. Sudaya, by the nectar. Aplavitaha, without being touched. Apatat, immediately fell dead. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, using his disc, which was sharp like a razor, at once cut off Rahu's head. When Rahu's head was severed from his body, the body, being untouched by the nectar, could not survive. Purport. When the Personality of Godhead, Mohini Murti, severed Rahu's head from his body, the head remained alive, although the body died. Rahu had been drinking nectar through his mouth, and before the nectar entered his body, his head was cut off. Thus Rahu's head remained alive, whereas the body died. This wonderful act performed by the Lord was meant to show that nectar is miraculous ambrosia. Om Ajnanatim-marandasya Gnanana Salakya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swaparantikam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we're right in the middle of a dramatic episode, cutting the head of Rahu. But because Rahu, somehow or other, had begun to drink the nectar. We recall how the demigods and the demons were churning the ocean of milk using the serpent Vasuki and so on. And remember how a pot of nectar was offered to the demigods, the demons on their heels, and a major dispute arose within the universe. The Supreme Lord appeared as Mohini Murti, a very beautiful female form, extraordinary. So everyone was overwhelmed, and they agreed that she could divide the nectar. So she said, all right, she said to the demons, I'll give a little bit to these demigods just so that they are pacified, and then I'll give the rest to you. Then it's all yours. All yours, yes. But Rahu, he didn't trust the whole thing. So Rahu was hiding between the demigods. And so Rahu was also getting a little share of the nectar and taking it. But then he became caught, and immediately the Lord with his Sudarshan disc severed the head of Rahu, but too late, because the nectar had already touched the head. And so, although the body of Rahu was killed, his head remained. Of course, this is all part of the greater universal plan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And a personality like Rahu, who inflicts suffering upon the living beings is also an agent of the Supreme Lord. And especially Rahu then being placed as a celestial body, and according to astrological or constellations, Rahu would have opportunities to exert his power. In this age, we see then that Rahu is at certain times of the rotation of planets is coming close to the sun and moon, and that Rahu is the cause of what we call eclipses, and all the inauspiciousness that is connected to such solar or lunar eclipses is caused by the presence of Rahu. Such arrangements in the universe are part of the intricate arrangement of mercy of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is desiring that all living beings reside eternally in the spiritual sky. When some living beings become rebellious at one stage, when some living beings require a facility to express their desires independent from the Supreme Lord, then the material world is created as a place where the living being can be covered by the illusory energy and think that he's independent of the Supreme Lord. Of course, there's not a moment that any living being or anything in this material creation or in the spiritual world is independent from the Supreme Lord. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pavartate iti tabajantimam buddhabhava samanvitaha. Not only is the Supreme Lord the cause of everything that manifests, and therefore everything that manifests is a manifestation of his energy, parasya shakti vividai visruyate. Not only that, but the Supreme Lord is also personally expanding himself and through all these expansions is directly involved in controlling the material energy, including the bodily functions of the living being. So never is there a time when we are separated from the Supreme Lord. However, the living beings under the influence of the illusory energy may think so. Isvaroham aham bogi. The demoniac mentality means that we think that we are the controller and that we are the enjoyer. That mentality is jayato visya pumsam. It makes us meditate on sense enjoyment. And then gradually we are going down into the lower modes of nature, because when we are engaging in sense gratification, it doesn't satisfy. And therefore we're going to look for something stronger. Something, if one thing doesn't work, then try another. And so we'll wind up trying stronger and stronger means and sinful means. Means that are destructive to others, to the self, to the creation. So in this way, the living beings become a disturbance. And when living beings have become thoroughly disturbing to others, to the creation of the Lord, to themselves, then they are defined as demons. Satsvarup Maharaj wrote one book which starts with a question. The title is a question: am I a demon or a Vaishnava? Which is really a very good question. You know, I mean, because the demoniac influence has spread over the entire world, especially in this age of Kali. It touches even the Brahminical class. Right? Even the Brahminical class is in this age corrupted. And even there, demoniac influence is present. What to speak of all the other classes of man? Therefore, that question, am I a demon or a Vaishnava, is a very, very good question. And I think we have to ask ourselves that question. In the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, we find first a series of verses. Okay, thank you. Very good. I'll drink some. Yep. You know, like something like, I don't know how many hours, but it's like 20 hours with a mask, you know. It's really intense. If that doesn't make you sick, I don't know what does. Poor. Well, so the demoniac mentality and the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is describing, in the first verses, describes the divine qualities of the demigods, of the devotees, and then it starts to describe the qualities of the demons. And we see things like harsh speech, right? Harsh speech is mentioned as a demoniac quality. Now, that has happened to me, even after initiation. And so what to do? It's not so easy. If I may illustrate that, with a childhood story, my mother told me about two princesses. One, when she opened her mouth, only roses came out, and the other one, frogs came out. Right? In my case, I try for the roses, but every once in a while there is this frog that jumps out of my mouth. And you can't put it back, you know. It's like, once it's out, it's out. And ugly as it is, bouncing through the room. And think, I shouldn't have said that. Kind of thing. So we can appreciate that to check these influences, the demoniac influences, is not so easy. It's like, so it is good if we take note of the demoniac qualities, and if we become a little introspective and appreciate that we have to overcome them, and that we have to thoroughly become purified and embrace the qualities of goodness, because such qualities are a favorable foundation for fixing ourselves in devotional service. One can take up devotional service from all the modes of nature. There's no limit. Anyone from any background can take to devotional service. But we can appreciate that one who is afflicted by the mode of ignorance is thoroughly controlled by the senses, thoroughly controlled by lust, greed, anger, and so on, and that therefore such a person who is in the lower modes of nature will have more difficulty to be steady in spiritual life. Right? And so we see the influence of passion and ignorance distracting us from devotional service. Anyway, the injunction in the Srimad Bhagavatam is akama sarvakama va moksha kama udaridi tivrena bhakti-yogena hiyeta purusham param. That whether we have material desire, whether we are kama or whether we are kama, whether we have material desire, tivrena bhakti-yogena, that we should engage in devotional service, can be said with great force, without adulteration, or wholeheartedly, completely. Give it all our best. That is the point. So if we give it our best endeavor, then we can overcome these lower natures. And tadara just tamobhava kama lobadiyasche mata evidi tanvidi stitam saprapasidati, that the process of devotional service purifies us from the influence of the lower modes of nature. So, in this way, that is the essence. In that purification, there are two aspects. One is the automatic purification that just comes from devotional service, because of its spiritual nature. It acts. Just as the nectar acted upon the head of Rahu. In the same way, devotional service, it will act regardless of who is the receiver. Even if somehow or other a demon engages in devotional service, that demon will also get purified. Like fire that burns, ajnanatva, knowingly or unknowingly, it burns. So the potency of devotional service is unconditional. The mercy will be present. And this is the principle of the Sankirtan movement, that devotional service will act. And therefore, in preaching, somehow or other, if we engage people in some form of devotional service, then it will act. And even if people are very conditioned by a demoniac mentality, devotional service can pierce that demoniac layer that covers the consciousness. So, anarthapasamam saksat bhakti-yoga madoksaje, devotional service then can purify the heart from all anarthas. That is not all. Nityasiddha Krishna prem sadhukabhinai sravanadi sudachita karya udai. Devotional service, particularly hearing and chanting, also awakens our natural love for Krishna. So in the end, in the chanting of the holy name, we find a description in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, an explanation given by Haridas Thakur. And Haridas Thakur is comparing the chanting of the holy name to the rising of the sun. He says, as the sun is rising, before you actually see the sun disk coming above the horizon, the light of the sun starts to become present in the sky. And then at one point, the sun fully rises. The whole disk comes above the horizon. So it said before the sun rises, there is the reflection of the sun, the abhas. The Sanskrit word is abhas. So in the same way, the holy name is appearing. First, there is the reflection, the abhas of the name, the nam abhas, not the full potency of the pure name. because we are conditioned souls, and we are conditioned by offenses. That means there are traces of demoniac mentality within us. If one still commits the 10 offenses, means there are traces of demoniac conditioning in us. So it says that Nam Abhas, just a dim reflection of the name, can purify all these contaminations, and can also purify us from the cycle of birth and death and give us liberation, Haridas explains. But the Sudanam, the pure name, can give us actually love of God and attachment to Krishna. So, therefore, considering the purification I was speaking, the purification coming from the holy name. So at this stage, most of us will be chanting in Nam Abhas. And as such, we need purification of the holy name. We need the purification of sorry, got distracted. We need the purification of the chanting because of our conditioning. So, as I said, this purification is happening automatically from the power of devotional service. One might say miraculously, just as the nectar acted on the head of Rahu, in the same way. The mantra asod, the medicine of the holy name, will act upon us, and devotional service will act just as we are getting the darshan of the deities. That darshan will act upon us. The purification will act. Simultaneously, we can also make a conscious effort to cooperate, to try and act in such a way that we are giving up materialistic activities, and that we give up the activities of the lower modes. And if we are not doing so, we can also slow down the automatic progress of devotional service or of the chanting of the holy name. By committing offenses in the chanting of the holy name, one can chant for many, many births and still not attain the desired success of this chanting, which is Krishna Prema. I used to recite that every day. It's like, yes, so, which is very true. So in other words, it is important that we make a conscious effort in devotional service to act according to the qualities of a Vaishnava, of the mode of goodness, such qualities that are favorable, that are blessed qualities. The qualities of the mode of goodness are extraordinary, because the qualities of the mode of goodness are also found in the Vaishnavas. We hear that it's said a Vaishnava is already a Brahmana, right? Because a Vaishnava has the qualities of a Brahman, is meant to have the qualities of goodness. But then there's that one much more important point, that his whole life is samsiddhir haritosanam, is dedicated to the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Without that, even Brahminical qualities are not beneficial, because without that one is still riding in the manorat, one is still riding in the chariot of the mind. And the chariot of the mind can take us astray from, and will take us away from the mode of goodness. Only when we become fixed in the service of the Supreme Lord, then we will naturally act in such a way as is pleasing to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is said that the advanced Vaishnavas who are situated in love of God, they are spontaneously serving Krishna. So they are on the raga platform, the platform of pure attachment to the Supreme Lord. It is said, and such Vaishnavas are not very concerned about following the rules and regulations of devotional service. And it is also not so essential for them because of their deep, pure love for Krishna. But nonetheless, it is said such Vaishnavas will never do anything which is not pleasing to Krishna. Therefore, they'll never act in a sinful way. They are automatically pure by nature. How far the purity can go, we see some examples in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Nectar of Devotion is an interesting book because it gives us a full analysis, detailed analysis of the process of devotional service, the stages of devotional service, quite intricately described with examples, right, of each of them. So that is interesting. And there's one example of Uddhava. And it's said that Uddhava saw this beautiful lady and felt attracted to this lady. And then in the Nectar of Devotion it said, Uddhava was surprised. What's going on here? Why am I attracted to a lady? What's happening? I'm feeling attracted to this lady as I would feel attracted to Krishna. I think it must be Krishna dressed up as a lady. And it was. So that's Uddhava's level of attraction to the opposite sex, you know. I mean, we're not taking it men, women thing. It's the opposite sex. We all. So where are we, you know? I mean, miles, light years behind Uddhava, right? But the other day we were reading something about Vidura. And it was interesting. Vidura had met Uddhava, and Vidura had just been informed. He had been informed about the fact that the whole Yadu family was wiped out, that the Kurus were dead and gone, and finally that Krishna had also left the planet. Right? So we can understand that Vidura had a cause to feel a bit disturbed. You know, like I mean, it was kind of, what shall I say, talking about a calamity. Some of us are not feeling so well when one of our parents leaves this world. But imagine his whole family destroyed. Then all the people that he cared for, the Yadus, you know, so close to Krishna, such wonderful personalities, wiped off the map. The Kurus wiped off the map. Everybody wiped off the map. Finally, Krishna himself, he left the planet. Vidura the word that was used is bereavement, which means a very deep sense of lamentation, of sadness, Uddhava got hit hard by feelings of depression. And then it said, but Uddhava, he was deeply rooted in transcendental knowledge, and therefore, based on transcendental knowledge, he was able to pacify his mind. So this is very important for us, because as Uddhava did that, we have to do that also. I mean, we are not always so transcendental, yet, although we've been touched by devotional service and getting purified, and the influence of ignorance and passion is disappearing, although the mantra asod, the transcendental medicine of the holy name is acting upon us, generally it's hard to go beyond the Nama Abbas level, to go beyond the level of chanting while still making some offenses and trying to rise above them. Yes. So therefore most of us are not able to chant Sudanam yet. So for most of us, the focus in our devotional service then is to get purified and to consciously take advantage of the transcendental potency of devotional service by taking shelter. And this taking shelter means that we have to make that mental adjustment, like as Uddhava did, as Vidura did. Take the transcendental knowledge and deal with all these feelings and emotions that are not completely pure and directed towards Krishna. If all our feelings were directed towards Krishna, then we would be pure devotees. But because our feelings are not all directed towards Krishna, some are also invested in material things and so on. Therefore, with transcendental knowledge, or yat anijasya yukta karma granti nibandhana, we have to cut the knot of karma, the knot of our previous involvement with the material energy which left us with all these material desires. Have to cut, and with transcendental knowledge. Then we can take full advantage of this devotional service. Then we can take full advantage of this mercy. And then we can chant Sudanam. Then love of God will awaken in our heart. And then suprasidati. It's said sidati means satisfied, prasidati means prakista rupena, in its full-fledged form, and su is even a reinforcement. If I make a free modern translation, I would say super fully satisfied, something like that. Yeah, that sounds. Here's our Sanskrit expert. Would that be okay? So that's what will happen to us if we just apply ourselves to this fight. What Vidura did, wasn't easy. I mean, okay, we may be a little bit affected by the material energy. I'm also sometimes feeling a little affected by things, like a mask, so many hours. It's like, was a bit annoying. My nose is still itching from it. It was very austere, distracting. But, and I admit, we spoke a lot. We spoke more about mask than we should have. What to do? So the material energy distracts us sometimes. But then by transcendental knowledge, we have to neutralize that. That's not so easy. That's a fight. And that's the challenge we have in devotional service, to fight this fight while we are on the path of purification. Of course, as long as we are in the material world, even a pure devotee has to fight. Because prakriti-stani karsati, there's always a fight with the material energy. We see that Srila Prabhupada put up a hell of a fight. Right? No one fought more than Srila Prabhupada, who just single-handedly was ready to take on the illusory energy. It's like incredible, and left no stone unturned, could not be in any way disillusioned, you know. When things get tough, you go, oh, this is too much, you know, and then it gets tougher. So, now it's really too much. And then it gets tougher still. Then you say, well, maybe Krishna doesn't want it. But Prabhupada didn't have that, right? No, just fixed. The order of my spiritual master is there. There's no, maybe Krishna doesn't want it. There is simply, let us go forward. So as long as we are in this material body, we'll have to struggle. We'll have to struggle. Prakriti stani karsati. Although internally we can be completely liberated from the influence of the material energy, and as a result we don't mind that struggle. But it doesn't mean it's gone. Prabhupada explained he was an old man, right? And whatever comes with that, he was going through, and wasn't easy. So he had to struggle. But he appreciated, like, when at one point Prabhupada, due to some health issue, got a problem with a ringing sound in his ears, right? Many of us would run to the doctor and, please give me some pills, you know, now this is getting too much, right? Prabhupada was appreciating. He said, at least now I can't sleep. And say, this is very good. And now I'm conquering sleep. And we would say, I can't sleep. I mean, this ringing in my ears, I can't sleep. Bring the sleeping pills, right? Whatever. So yes, this desire in the pure devotees, there is this extraordinary desire to serve Krishna. And this will just increase and increase as a result of the miraculous power of devotional service. That is the nature of the miraculous power of devotional service. It increases and increases and increases our desire to serve Krishna eternally. Okay, I will stop now, and if Maharaj has a comment, or Adi Purush, or anyone else, or a question, I will try to answer. Dayalu, Dayalu.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. There is a question of, you mentioned chanting the holy name and being engaged in devotional service. I found it sometimes, just sometimes, that it's like this sadhana of Krishna consciousness is activities which build up strength, and then I have to kind of rest of it, of this Krishna consciousness. Just take a little bit break, and then again into the fire of Krishna consciousness.
Yes.
So,
uninterrupted and unmotivated, that is pure devotional service. So before we get to pure devotional service, it's interrupted and maybe also a little motivated. Carry on.
So yeah, that was actually the question. So what to do and how to deal and go on.
Yeah, how to deal with that? Well, we recognize this in ourselves, that we are not the pure devotees that we wanted to be, or that we thought we were. Sometimes some of us, for a while, thought, I make advancement very quickly, and I'm practically a pure devotee. And then we realize, well, okay, maybe not quite. we meet ourselves, our own shortcomings. So this is part of maturing in Krishna consciousness, is that we are becoming aware of our own shortcomings. And as we see this, we recognize this tendency. I also, one time in Mayapur, around Gaur Punim, I was chanting 64 rounds for a number of days, so I just finished my quota, 64 rounds. Then I walked through room number 111 in the long building, which was the reception, and there was a newspaper lying there, and my hands started reaching for the newspaper, and I go, what's this, right? You know, I just chanted 60 rounds, and my hand went for the newspaper. I said, hey. I had to pull it back, right? I had to pull it back as I go like... But the tendency was like, because I had chanted 64 rounds and it was stressful for me. I was not chanting them out of pure love. I was chanting them because I wanted to, and there was an element of tapasya in there, of austerity. So, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Okay, 58. 6 more. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare Hare. Almost done, you know? And it's like, yeah, sometimes the happiest moment of chanting is when the rounds are done. Right? It's like, what to do? So, this is a conditioned state. Right? So we see this conditioning in ourselves. And so as we're maturing, we become more aware of that we do have these shortcomings. And we also become a little bit more aware of what I described about Vidura, about consciously applying the teachings and sort of checking ourselves. Like, you know, this monster, right, is extremely dangerous. I mean, it's a super dangerous thing that can just... It's Maya in your pocket. And you can use it for Krishna also. And then you can do some useful things for Krishna. But meanwhile, it's Maya in your pocket. And Maya comes right in the middle of your japa, has no respect at all, right? No, not at all, right? And then, you know, before you know it, then you go put into that phone to do some service for Krishna. But as you open it up, a message pop up, you know? You go, oh no. And you forget completely why you opened that phone. And you know, think, what was I going to do again? And you're totally absorbed in all this nonsense. So much distraction. I am not sure if the phone is ultimately beneficial for spiritual life. It could be. It could be. It can be engaged nicely, but, you know, dangerous. So like that, we have to be conscious, you know, when you use the thing, better watch out. Just like, and so on, and so on. All the distraction. Because the essence is simply chanting the holy name. You know. Still, the best years of my life were 6 years in Vrindavan from 78 to 84, when at that time the phone didn't work, email didn't exist, and even snail mail, right? The regular post, you could forget it. You just forget it, you know. You could as well throw a letter to your mother in a bottle in the Yamuna, you know. I mean, it's just like, I mean, just no point in trying to put something in the letterbox. And you just had to forget about it, you know. No telecommunication, 0. Didn't work. All right, great. Actually, this was the best time of my life, I must say. Very simple. One pair of slippers, simple, sleeping on a mat, clay water pot, you know. Those were the days. Anytime. Let's go back to that. So we have to be make a conscious effort to protect ourselves, to keep ourselves safe on the spiritual platform. 11th canto of Bhagavatam, there's a description of a brahmana who once was wealthy but was a miser. Later in life, his family rejected him, and then he took to spiritual life and became sannyasi. When he was a sannyasi, he was severely tested. People would steal his danda. Now that's serious. It's like, I mean, that it said that people would spit upon him while he was chanting. And then there's this thing, he was even being urinated upon while he was chanting. Now, that's getting quite disturbing, right? And no matter what happened, he had to keep himself safe on the spiritual platform. That's what it says. So this is something we have to deal with, the disturbing material influences, and keep ourselves safe on the spiritual platform. Good luck. And we all have our karma. Like you have some Balkan karma. So good luck with that, I mean, I have some Dutch karma. Well, try that one. Whew. It's like, I was just in New York, saw some New York karma. That also was intense. Oh. The Harinam party was 3 times attached with serious fist fights. I mean, one broken nose and so many. Yeah, just now in the last couple of weeks. Yeah. It's just like people are on edge. All this stuff is really agitating their minds. Yeah. Any other? Yes.
Just the microphone.
Thank you, Maharaj, for today's class. I was hoping that you could give some advice about trying to become fixed in our sadhana when we have health challenges. For example, for many years, I've always been waking up early for Mangalarati, and it was just like brushing my teeth to wake up early, come for the morning program. But after COVID, it's been a continuous struggle just to wake up early and get up for Mangalarati. No matter what happens, it's challenging. Would you be able to give some advice about how to stay fixed when you have health issues?
Yeah. I used to be a songwriter, and you just inspired me to write an after-COVID song. But what shall I say? I felt the urge, to. The thing is that this is also part of the material world. Old age, whether it's brought on through COVID or whether it's brought on just by wear and tear, but as the years go by, sooner or later we'll all get into this situation where you can't sleep, where you can't eat, where you can't go to the bathroom properly, where every function of the body becomes trouble. Everything is trouble. Right? So that's old age. Right? Breathing is difficult. Thinking, brain fog, hearing, speaking, choking in mucus, looking, you can't see or you see double, and so on, and so on. Everything becomes tough. Everything becomes tough. So why is this? Ultimately, this is to make us humble. See, we're a kid, and you're getting bigger, you're getting stronger, you're getting better. And every year, you can do more. And now, like you're at the peak of life. Changing bodies diorama, and then it goes down down and down and down. And yes, the COVIDs, the car accidents, the karma is also a factor that of time. Time doesn't just come by wear and tear. Time also comes by what these diseases leave with us. I can privately give you a list of what left some marks on my body. What to do. So make the best use of the bad bargain are the dynamics, and it simply makes us humble. And yes, as we get older, we may not be able to do what we used to. And we regret it, and we don't like it. But we got to keep ourselves safe on the spiritual platform. Welcome to the purification. It all comes out in the wash.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Yes, Tulya.
My question is about intelligence. So I'm thinking how important it is that we properly understand things in life. Yet somehow, maybe for myself, being in a female body, so many emotions on one side, and so maybe a little intelligence on another side. So, like also, as we say, like particular hill has its meters; it doesn't go any higher. So, how to properly understand things, if or when we are limited?
Yeah. Well, we are all very limited. I mean, in this age of Kali, men, women, all very limited. But tadami buddhi yogam tam. The Lord gives us intelligence. That is one thing. Another thing is Lord Chaitanya is there. His mercy is there to help us and to make it specially easy. Here are the Vaishnavas. The Vaishnavas, they are the caretaker of the tree of devotional service, of the Bhakti Kalpataru. So, like this, we are surrounded by mercy. So, the intelligent thing to do is to understand that we are not so intelligent, and that therefore, that is intelligent. One who says, I'm not so intelligent, is, by Kali Yuga standards, very intelligent. And such a person can say, and therefore, I need to take shelter. I need to take shelter of the mercy as it comes to the devotees, to the scriptures, to prasadam, through yena tena prakarena mana Krishna nivesiyat. Somehow or other, fix the mind on Krishna by always taking shelter. That's so. Who has so much intelligence? And then, if someone does have a little intelligence, then to not misuse that intelligence, to not become proud, is very difficult. So, it's very intelligent when we understand that we have no intelligence. All right, I thank you all very, very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Jai.